Welcome to Kwaderno Academy, empowering excellence through education. Join us as we inspire growth and unleash your potential. Let's dive in.
Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to break down a really powerful idea, how you can transform any teaching or training session from, a boring monologue into a super engaging conversation. It's really all about flipping the script on how we think about learning itself. All right, let's just dive right in. I want you to think about this for a second. We're going to challenge a huge assumption most of us have about learning. What if the goal of teaching isn't to just give out answers? What if our main job, whether we're a leader, a teacher, a trainer, what if it's not to provide information but to spark genuine curiosity? Think about it. What if real learning doesn't start with an answer, but with a really good question? So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the problem with just giving answers. Then we'll talk about a whole new philosophy of curiosity and a cool tool called the shelf method. After that, we'll get into the art of asking a great question. And finally, we'll tie it all together with the ultimate goal, creating a real passion for learning. Okay, section 1, the problem with answers. Look, we've all been there, right? You're sitting in a training session, it feels more like a lecture, you're getting buried in slides and handouts, but you feel totally disconnected from what's being said. That's the old way of doing things, and honestly, it doesn't work. And this right here, this shows the huge mindset shift we're talking about. The old way? Just providing answers, handing out papers, and making sure everyone's compliant. The new idea is a complete 180. It's about fostering curiosity, inspiring actual discussion, and, cultivating a real passion for the topic. It's a total game changer, for sure. So the big question is, how do we actually make that shift? Well, it's not just about new tactics or tricks. It really starts with a whole new philosophy at its core. And this is it, right here. This is the heart of the philosophy. The best training, the most effective teaching, starts by getting questions to pop up in people's minds. You want to make them wonder, make them think critically. Basically, create an appetite for the knowledge before you even start serving it up. Okay, so that's the philosophy. But how do you put it into practice? Well, let me show you a simple but seriously powerful technique. It's called the shelf. So what is the shelf? Think of it as a metaphorical parking lot for ideas. It's a space where you can store all the questions, ideas, and concerns that pop up from your audience. This is brilliant because it lets you acknowledge every single contribution, making people feel heard without derailing the whole session. You just say, "Great point, let's put that on the shelf," and we'll come right back to it. And here's how it works. It's a simple 3-step process. First, you ask a provocative question to get everyone thinking and talking. Step 2, as those ideas and questions start flowing, you acknowledge them and you shelve them. And then, this is the magic part, you use your actual content, your presentation, to directly address those exact points. So their own thoughts literally become the framework for the lesson. It's so smart. But of course, this whole thing, this shelf method, it all hinges on one absolutely critical skill: asking the right kind of questions. You can't just ask any old thing. So, what makes a question great? Well, first off, you have to ask with genuine curiosity. Ask something you don't actually know the answer to. You also got to avoid those leading questions, the ones that are just fishing for a specific answer you want. Instead, try using a surprising statistic to get people thinking or encourage a little healthy debate, and really try to explore the pain points your audience is actually dealing with. Okay, let's look at a perfect example of what not to do. Asking something like this, well, it's a leading question. It doesn't make anyone curious, it just makes them try to guess what answer you're looking for. It basically shuts down the conversation before it even gets a chance to start. But now, look at this. See the difference? Wow, this question is completely open-ended. It invites people to share their real, authentic experiences and what they've seen. It just opens the door for a way richer, way more meaningful discussion. And importantly, it shows you respect the knowledge that's already in the room. Here's another really powerful technique. Just start with a stark, undeniable fact. Put a hard number up there. It immediately grabs everyone's attention and perfectly sets the stage for a real meaty conversation. And then you follow up that number with a question like this one. Bam. It's direct, it's challenging, and coming right after that hard data point, it immediately gets people thinking critically. It forces them to really engage with what's going on, instead of just sitting back and passively listening. All right, so we've got the philosophy of curiosity, we've got the shelf method as a tool, and we know how to ask the right questions. But so what? Why does any of this really matter? Well, it all connects back to the ultimate goal of any kind of teaching. You see, the learning that really sticks, the most effective kind, it doesn't happen when people are just passively receiving information. No way. It happens when they understand the why, when they feel a real deep connection between the big picture and their own personal motivations. That is where true passion comes from. When you boil it all down, this whole approach is about a fundamental shift in your role. It's about changing from being the speaker at the front of the room to being an observer and a listener. It's about focusing less on what you want to say and way more on understanding what your audience truly needs. So I want to leave you with a challenge. The big takeaway here is something for you to try. Think about your week ahead, your work, your team, maybe even your family. What is just one conversation you can change, one meeting you can reframe, just by choosing to start with a question instead of an answer? I'm telling you that one simple shift, it might just unlock everything.
Brought to you by Kwaderno KO. Learn smarter, not harder.